Warning, the following podcast contains graphic language that Nancy Reagan and Tipper Gore deemed inappropriate in a civilized society. Maybe your kid should be outside playing in the sunshine rather than listening to adult language on a podcast. But hey, I won't tell you how to raise your kids. Religions and governments and hosts of mainstream media opinion shows are better suited for that job, I suppose. It takes a village to wash your brain. Am I right?
We're here to talk about the political environment and kind of what it means. Some of us are going to have our own views. These are our private views, while all three of us are contributors to our voice in one way or another. Our views don't necessarily represent our voice as a whole, but we also want to make sure that you are aware that we do have a bias. Every person has a bias, and hopefully you'll know that we wear our bias on our sleeves. That way you don't feel like we're trying to deceive you in any way.
It's about time to get with the program.
Alright, hitting the record button now so I don't forget. Alright. I don't know. Anybody else can be in? I don't mind.
I'm not going to be able to
Chris, I don't know.
Well, fuck. Alright. Whoa! A total of 17 people are following us on YouTube. We got to get those numbers up. Everybody out there, if you hear us, please tell a friend and double it up. As soon as you double it up, we'll start adding even more cool shit like live episodes. Hey, everybody. It's episode 26. With you as always, way up in the north, Chris and...
Jessie, way south? Deep south?
Deep in the south. That's two hosts. Is there a third?
Is there a third? Uh-oh.
Maybe there's not a third.
Maybe there's not a third.
I am here.
Oh.
Yes, I am here.
There he is.
Oh my gosh, I had a 6-year-old that's yelling at me because he can't play Spider-Man.
Oh.
PS4, so I'm trying to figure it out.
Sorry, buddy.
I know. And he's all in tears, like, oh my gosh, Dad, no, I can't play Spider-Man. I'm like, my heart is like, oh my gosh, that's a badass game. I kind of feel bad for you, kid. So I'm going to wait for a convenient pause.
We can arrange that. Do your deadly duties.
Quite possibly. So, we were discussing what we should possibly talk about this, and of course, the thing on everybody's mind, there's the government shutdown, the border wall, Trump, Pelosi, all of that nonsense.
Let me start this off with just a quick question. Okay?
Sure.
Now, I'm not as into the whole political scene as much as you guys are, just because I had that burnout issue and everything else. But my question is this, is when he had the House and the Senate for 2 years, and he could have got a blank check at any point in those 2 years for this issue that we're having now.
Dude.
Why is it now a emergency, now a national emergency, now this, now? Why is it an issue now when, you know what I mean? It's one of those things like, you know, when you were a kid, if mom and dad were getting along, you knew you couldn't get away with shenanigans, but if they were fighting with each other kind of a thing, you know what I mean?
Dude, okay, so with
that's
that
my question.
That makes me want to throw one little thing out. Just came to mind right now. The same question was asked of Obama, why it was that he wasn't pushing the Affordable Care Act until he didn't have control of both houses of Congress. And not having control of both houses, he used that as a blame for his compromise of not actually giving us Medicare for all, which might have been the original idea, and turned it into a for-profit healthcare system that still fucked people over. So at this point, you could say, well, why the hell did Trump not do the thing early on when he had all that control? And we could probably trace it to a bunch of circumstantial situations. But I wonder if it wasn't supposed to be brought up until now, until the House control was gone. What do you think?
Me personally, I think it's a smokescreen. I think it's one of those things where we know that legally there are certain things that's going on in his investigation, and you know, the collusion with Russia or the payoff to the porn stars or what have you. And I'm wondering if this is like that big distraction, like he did with signing the Tax Act, which permanently put in those tax cuts for the rich and screwed over the common people. I'm wondering if that's what this is all about. And the Democrats and everyone else, I mean, it's no different than when Obama was in office and then the Republicans took back, I can't remember if it was the House or the Senate. And it didn't matter. Like, Obama could have said, okay, well, we're going to give hand jobs to everyone. They've been like, no. Okay, we're going to give everyone $1 billion that's in this room. No.
Specifically, you mentioned the Tax Act and making it permanent, and I want to wager, and if I'm wrong, somebody tell me I'm wrong, but I think every president since Reagan has done exactly that.
Yeah.
Even if they ran on the fact that they weren't going to do it, eventually they did. Obama made permanent the Bush era tax breaks. Bush made permanent the Clinton era rich people tax breaks. I mean, if you look at it like that, well, first of all, you know who they're serving. But secondly, I don't even know that I would add that into the array of nonsense going on with Trump. I would say definitely he's trying to deflect because Mueller just got 6 more months to do more investigation. And even if the Russiagate thing is nonsense, if you think back with Clinton, Whitewater actually didn't really yield a whole lot of anything. And they ended up having to get him on a technicality, which is exactly what they're shooting at Trump for now, which is why they're trying to bust all these people for extracurricular stuff that had nothing to do with what they originally set out to do, which is to prove Russia put Trump in office.
Well, and I think that I think both of you guys are right. I think that Jesse's right in the sense that it will be a smokescreen and is a smokescreen, but I don't think it's a premeditated smokescreen. I don't think that Trump knows how to do anything but fly by the seat of his pants. But to your point, Chris, like we have exact evidence of the GOP doing things purposely in order to pretend like they're actually being adults. And look at the budget. The Senate passed a budget just before Christmas as Democrats were flying home, basically getting ready to turn around, come back and vote. Well, the exact same budget went to the House before the changing of the guard. And, McConnell and Ryan went backdoor. They talked. That Ryan said, look, I won't vote for it, therefore it won't pass. It won't get to Trump's desk. It'll give us the appearance of actually doing our jobs.
Yeah.
And then when the change of the guards happened, the exact same budget was passed by the Democratic House. And what does McConnell do? He refuses to allow it to a vote, showing that he was never serious about it in the first place. So this is all politics. This is all bullshit. I think you're right in that it was never meant to be brought up until now.
See, the biggest point that I'm taking from all of this, and this is just me speaking my personal opinion, is this should be a huge alarm bell, red flag, fucking fireworks, orgasm, vinegar stroke face, whatever terminology you want to use, to show that these fucking assholes, and I mean assholes from the presidency down to the representative, these fucking assholes don't give a shit about the common person. There are 800,000 people that did not get a goddamn paycheck. Now, I'm kind of roughly in that same boat because I had life kind of bend me over this last week, and I mean, it got to the point where I just had to look back and metaphorically say, harder, daddy, because, like, you're going to fuck me, make it good.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are people that are now like the TSA. They're not going to work. They're calling in sick. I mean, in what world does
they're protesting too?
Yeah, in what world does someone say, "Oh yeah, you have to come in, but we're not going to pay you"? That's slavery.
Yeah,
and that's
go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself, right?
Yeah.
But that's 800,000 people that are furloughed, that can't pay their bills, that may not be able to go get food for their kids or meds or what have you. And that should be right there the biggest indication that this government, across the board, does not give a flying fuck about people.
Two pieces about that. One, I think at least in the near future, Congress should see about being able to take the ability of the president, take his ability to shut anything down like that. I don't think any one individual or one body should be able to stop the motion of the thing that is sustaining our fucking country. Are you kidding me? Government shutdown ever since the Tea Party bastards started doing that shit. Those guys can go straight to hell. That is nonsense.
But everything,
the military not getting paid either whenever they shut down different portions, right? Like now we're seeing what the White House and Trump's powers can actually afford to pay. It's the IRS. It's the people making sure airplanes don't run into each other, right? So I think if anyone's going to get their pay taken away, it ought to be the congressional staff. It should be Congress, and that would actually light a fire under Pelosi's ass to do something about it, rather than just stand around and grandstand for 22 days.
Well, here's my question: like they're still getting paid.
I know, that's the fucking problem.
The thing that bothers me is, why can't you take their pay and say, guess what? You guys don't want to work? Fuck you. We're going to take your wages, your salary for that portion of time, and we're going to pay our federal employees that money so they can go to work.
Well, that would be enough to pay like at least a third of them.
Okay, but if Pelosi doesn't show up on a fucking Monday, it's not life shattering in the sense that of 90 TSA agents don't show up in Miami, which is a major port for smuggling, which is a major entry port for illegal immigration, which is a major port for just all kinds of fucking shenanigans coming into that airport. I would rather that money go to those people. I mean, even though it's minimum wage, which I still don't understand to this day, is all the shit that he's saying that the wall is going to do, it's the exact same fucking thing that these people that are furloughed are supposed to do. You've got Border Patrol that's not getting paid. You got TSA agents that's not getting paid. You've got certain low-level NSA agents that are not getting paid. You got FBI low-level non-officers that are not getting paid. You've got USDA that is not getting paid.
Don't you see what it's doing? It's setting up a situation to be able to declare a national emergency.
Well, not only that, Jessica, but you also have to understand that these are people that don't mind looking like hypocrites. And therein lies the biggest problem, is that the average person, has a problem with looking like a hypocrite. They don't give a shit. They just want to make sure that they have power, because at the end of the day, the people that are still hanging on and that are still supporting them really do believe in the ends justify the means. And they're exactly acting that way. And so they're acting the way in which that they will be rewarded by their base. And therein lies a problem, is that we don't think that way. So we get confused. So the biggest problem is not how do we expose their hypocrisy, but how do we undermine their power in a way in which, because they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about their hypocrisy. And
Everyone
I don't really
should have...
understand at this point how we can disillusion that base that is still holding on.
Everyone should have the image of Hillary Clinton at the Benghazi hearings and at the hearings on her server, dusting her fucking shoulders off for the cameras.
Yeah,
That's exactly what Josh just described.
But my exact point was going back to what we've been talking, me and Chris have at least been talking about for the last couple of weeks. My apathy and my disdain is coming from the simple fact is it does not matter. It's to this point where people are like, well, Trump's going to lie and you know that. Well, you wouldn't go and buy a car from a used car salesman when you knew, again, going back to the finger your grandma fucking analogy.
You're getting fucked and you don't even know it.
But you know what I mean? Is nowhere else in the universe is this acceptable. So why are we able and why are we willing as a society to take this from people that we just had an election and all these people were promising everything and the stars and the moon, and then their first fucking thing that they do in office is basically plant their feet in the ground, which I don't have a problem with if you are in a justified situation. He wants $5 billion for the wall. I will personally start the campaign to do whatever I need to do to get this as a vote to the American people on one condition, and that is that it's the Donald J. Trump Memorial Wall, and his ass has to die first. He does that, I will make sure that we
That's a tall order, dude.
What I have a bigger problem with is, we were all watching, and we saw that last year when Donald Trump said, hey, fuckers, I need $58 billion for a military budget. And people like Elizabeth Warren and many other Democrats have said, this guy's a fucking maniac. Been saying that for 2 years, said $58 billion. Well, how about $80 billion?
Yeah.
They gave him 22 additional billion. So, and I think the wall, first off, I think the wall is fucking ridiculous. But if we're gonna do it anyway, why can't they take the $5 billion from there? They gave him 22 extra billion. The Pentagon doesn't need it. The Pentagon's been saying that they're over budget. So, or that they're under budget, like they actually have a surplus. So fucking take it from there.
Right, but and trying to grandstand and say we're not going to have a wall at all is kind of stupid too, because in the long run, the only thing that would really help a 2020 win is for the wall to get built, because even the people who are cheering for it now are going to see the just ugliness of it all, right? It's going to be disgusting. I think if they let the wall build, it'll fall right over the top of Trump.
Okay, so here, let me ask you guys a question. I'm going to give you my big spiel on this. I can do it to where you don't need a wall. Ask me how.
Don't tell me you're going to put dog collars on people, Jesse.
No, not going to do dog collars, not going to do any of that. Here's what you do, is you take the money out of the black market for narcotics. You take out the money for enforcement, as in being a for-profit prison system, and then you turn around and you make immigration not necessarily extremely easy. extremely, and be like, okay, you want to come to this country? Why? Well, I want to come to this great country of America because you know what? I want my children to have a better education. Okay, we're going to ask you 10 questions. Are you a criminal? No. Can you prove it? Yes. Do you have any family in the States that can actually help you? And to just like they did with my wife, to get my Canadian wife.
Right. It's actually the way that you become a citizen.
Exactly. And if you answer all these questions, then they can sit there and go, okay, well, here's what we're going to do is we're going to give you this and we're going to fast track you on this, except there's a couple of things. One, you cannot claim social benefits as welfare, food stamps, WIC, Social Security, none of that until you've paid your dues as a newly invested resident until you get your citizenship.
Unless, of course, you're a refugee. You got to throw that one in there because we're the ones.
Refugees is completely fucking different. And I don't look at it as a refugee.
That is a change in status. That's
I look at it as a backdoor cost for their fucking dicking around in all these fucking countries that we never should be fucking around in. Panama, Colombia, South America, Guam. Name the fucking country with brown people. We shouldn't have been there fucking destabilizing their government. Just a fucking thought. Exactly.
So any
Honduras.
You know, and that's what I mean. So if you take the money out of the black market for drugs, and the U.S. became like Peru and said, guess what? We're decriminalizing all drugs. So all that money that we just put into law enforcement, we're going to take half of it back. And instead, what we're going to do is offer social programs that says, hey, you're addicted to heroin? Yeah. You tired of being a junkie yet? Yeah, I kind of am. Okay, well, here, we're going to pay for the social program has already got money in for it. You're going to be paid for going to rehab and your sober living, and we're going to do our best to get you off of it. Just like Peru did. Peru went through and they got rid of all criminal charges up to a certain amount. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they were just like, oh, fuck, you got 9 kilos of heroin in your basement. I'm sure that's for personal use. You know what I mean? No. They made it within reason. And then they found an actual drop in users because there was no more stigma. There was no more fear of jail. And then people could really start looking at this problem as what it actually is an epidemic and a disease. Why are alcoholics considered a disease? But, you know, you look at any street in America. If it's not an opioid addiction, it's heroin. If it's not heroin, it's meth. It depends on what part of the country you're in. Yeah. But I guarantee you it's going to be linked back to Big Pharma that started it. The opioid and heroin
I think that's part of it. And I also think that we have a miserable existence, especially being that you have people that need to work 2 and 3 hours. You've got a truck driver who is running on paper logs instead of e-logs, and so he's fudging his books because he's trying to get ahead, and so he's taking meth in order to stay up, in order to drive. Or you've got the working class mom who needs to work 3 hours and only gets 4 hours of sleep a night and just can't handle without Adderall or without a speed bump or something. And so we have a pretty miserable existence that forces people to need some sort of escape.
Right.
And that's the biggest problem right now, is that we force that escape to be illegal. We force that escape to wind you in a situation where you're thrown in prison, your kids are taken away. So we'll make your life miserable, and then we put you in such a fucked up position where everything that you hold valuable is then stripped away from you. So basically, your utter humanity is slipping through your fingers day by day by day. If you're struggling to get alive, if you're struggling to stay alive, and struggling to feed your family, and then it's all taken away at one quick waft if you're caught. And so this is where we need a situation where regular people actually run for office, because regular people know regular problems. Like regular humans are fucking humans. They can fight for human problems. Regular humans aren't going to get into a position where they're making $174,000, give or take, like Nancy Pelosi, and then they're like, oh, wait a minute, Nancy Pelosi's worth $200 million? Like, how did that happen? Oh, I don't know. And so the idea that she's actually going to fight for regular human issues is absurd. And so this is what's so really interesting about the Rashida Tlaibs and the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes, is that they actually will fight for working class issues. And we need more people who can do that and who are enabled to do that. It's up to people like us who rant and rave to help demystify the process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just want to throw out there one way to resolve the majority of the detrimental drug issues out there, people having to escape from shitty lives, is to take away the precariousness of being able to meet your basic needs. If you have all of your basic needs met, I guarantee you that it is like 99% chance, well, whatever, I'm making these numbers up, that you will not be getting hooked on fucking heroin and trying to kill yourself. It won't happen if you had your basic needs met. But how could you do that?
Well, but here's the thing: is this is what drives me up the wall. You talk about having your basic needs met, right? That is shelter, that is food, and that is
lack
clothes.
Of struggle
right?
to clothe yourself, feed yourself, and house yourself and yours. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. And your
right.
family.
But the thing that bothers me is the government is more than willing to help you out with that, as long as you're as long as you break the law. Because what do? They throw you in jail. They took care of your shelter because you're in jail for 5 years for a drug offense. They're going to feed you 3 meals a day. And they're going to clothe you in really flattering colors like orange and neon yellow.
Well, it's only proper to treat a slave well if they're going to work for free.
But that's my point. And people need to fucking understand is realistically, why is it that there is a delineation in this country between crimes depending on what you did? If I'm a drug user, I'm a criminal. If I rob a store, I'm a criminal. Yet if I bilk people out of a fucking Ponzi scheme, it's considered a white collar crime.
Yeah.
Who's hurting more people? Bob, who sells a little bit of meth on the side to feed his habit, and it's not. I'm 43. I've only had one time in my life ever had someone walk up to me and go, "Hey, you want to buy some drugs?" And I guarantee you that guy was a goddamn narc cop. Guaranteed. Right? They're selling a product that does not need to be advertised. If you want it, you know who to go get it from, or you know who to talk to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm a Fortune 500 company and I'm a CEO and I bilk my shareholders and people out of millions of dollars, crash the economy, steal the life savings of 80,000 fucking grandmas that are getting ready to retire, and now they're fucked. Oh, well, I get to go for 3 years for a bank fraud or wire fraud, or why is it fraud is a less punishable offense than having a little fucking gram of crack cocaine?
Yeah, especially, you can thank Mr. Clinton for that.
Right. But my question is who's hurting more? If you talk about crime and what laws we should be more enforcing, everyone will agree that it should be violent crime. It should be violence against women, children, domestic violence, murder, robberies, armed robberies. Well, why don't we throw fraud and white-collar fucking assholes on that list as well when they force a company to fucking cave in and fire 50,000 employees or look what's going on in the auto industry right now. They are getting, they got all that money, Jim got all that fucking money in the bailout. Yeah. Yet now they're closing a good portion of their plants in the United States and keeping the ones open in Mexico and China.
You're fucking kidding me.
Slave fucking labor.
And what was Trump talking about? Something to replace NAFTA now?
Exactly. And they're even closing the plants in Canada because Canada is highly unionized. And it's one of those things where it's like, well, wait a minute now. What about, 10 years ago when we gave you all that money? Where'd it go? And that's just the thing that people need to get in their fucking head. And that's where people need to wake up. And if you start seeing it in that point and from that viewpoint, you'll start seeing how our government and everything else is fucking really ran. And then you're going to start seeing maybe, hopefully, a little bit more change. You're going to start seeing a little bit more AOCs voted into office, or like Tulsi. You know what I mean? You're going to see more people that are coming from not wealthy families, not personally wealthy people. Why does Pelosi even fucking serve? She's got $200 million.
It's a power thing, dude.
Why isn't she off at Lindsay Lohan's resort getting a hand job from an 18-year-old fucking Greek guy? You know what I mean? No. She'd much rather go and
also,
sweet potato Hitler.
Why don't the Koch brothers invest in renewable energy when they could probably make a lot more? Part of it, it's not just money. They want power that can make money. And so therein lies the problem. Is Pelosi's in the same situation. She wants power, and then she wants money, and then the money gives her extra power. So it's quite a shitty situation.
But see, it goes.
If you guys are willing to talk, I don't know how much you know about Tulsi Gabbard. There's been some things cropping up about how she's got some problematic things with supporting Hindu nationalism. And I love Tulsi one. I think that yes, these are actual questions that she needs to answer. But I'm a little mixed because I don't like any sort of nationalism whatsoever. But she also is a progressive champion. She's gone over to Syria to actually talk to Assad to figure out what the fuck is going on when we're all Russiagate.
She's gonna get crucified for that.
She's the only person that tried to push bills that actually went along with the progressive platform in its original form.
Right.
So for that, I applaud her. I hadn't heard anything about what did you say? The deporting people of the Hindu religion?
No. She actually supports Hindu nationalists.
Hindu nationalists. Now, what's up with that?
So let me see if I can pull up some.
From what I gather,
side note, fellas, 7.5 minutes, and I can start a new one.
Okay. The thing that I've noticed. Go ahead, Josh. I don't want to cut you off. You're on a roll.
No. Go ahead and finish that. I'm actually going to see if I can pull up some stuff on what they're talking about her supporting the Hindu nationalism.
The thing that I've seen so far about the whole Gabbard, I've listened to her on a few podcasts. I absolutely love her point of view from what I've seen until I see something that's shady. But the thing that I'm seeing is all of this stuff, like she went over and talked to Assad. Well, that's fine. The U.S. gave him weapons, but no one's going to fucking say shit about that, right? Didn't Trump and the Simpsons predict Trump and the Saudis? I mean, he sold $1 billion of arms that I guarantee you have killed American fucking soldiers.
Yep.
Guaranteed. But no one's got a problem with that. Well, that's just business. So, I mean, I'm looking at it from that other point of view. So, the fucked up thing is people are going to have a problem with her going over and talking to Assad about peace a hell of a lot more than if they would have a problem with her going over and talking about weapons. And that
isn't that a seriously fucked up thing? Like, we all flip out whenever they go to Saudi Arabia and sell record level amounts of weapons and stuff to them, and nothing, crickets. All you get to see is the little hands on a globe and a mention of how much money was pushed back and forth in the mainstream media. They don't. I don't know if they're going to editorialize things. Why aren't they ever? Why do they lockstep with war? It's got to be their funders, right?
It's exactly.
It goes back into the money and the handshake behind the door, and yeah.
All right, so I pulled up an article from let's see, this is the Express Tribune talking about Tulsi Gabbard, U.S. presidential hopeful, turns out to be quote unquote Hindu nationalist. So they have links to an Intercept article. But it says, as right-wing nationalism spreads across the globe, it's beginning to be recognized as an existential threat to the world order rooted in liberal democratic values, and Gabbard, an Iraq war veteran, is now being pushed forward to choose sides. Gabbard was generously welcomed earlier by pro-Modi, so this is Narendra Modi, is that, am I saying his name right? The president of India, I believe. Elements of the Hindu-American diaspora, if I'm saying that right, in the U.S., who have donated wholeheartedly to her election campaigns. But as she announces her bid to run for U.S. presidential elections in 2020, she has publicly cut ties with those passionate supporters on at least one occasion while continuing to court them in private. And so I'll have to see. I'd love for somebody like Jimmy Dore to invite her back on. And like Jessie said, like I've loved watching her on podcasts like on Joe Rogan and on Jimmy Dore. And I would love to have somebody like Jimmy Dore just straight up ask her, because she is not afraid of answering questions.
And hopefully he's not afraid to ask her.
Well, screw that. I say we get her on the podcast and let's grill it.
How often does he speak truth to power when it's sitting in the room, especially when he's already greeted them as a friend in the past? I know that he will look in the camera and say what he's got to say, and I mean, no disrespect, really. I love that show to death, but when was the last time he looked a politician in the eye and asked him that kind of a hard question?
Well,
especially someone he's friendly with.
Exactly, but at the same time, it may come down to handler. Like I said, you know what, Chris? Why don't you email her? Josh, you email her. Say, hey, we got a podcast. We want to get you on. We want to talk about a few things.
Yeah, at the very least, you could just like leave the Zoom.
The worst she can do is tell us "fuck you," and if the handlers come back and say, "Okay, well, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that," then it'd be like, "Okay, well, then fuck you. We can't have a conversation."
And we'll have a show to talk about because we're going to expose every single detail.
Exactly. You know, I mean, that's.
I'm going to be talking to Savage Joy next week.
Awesome.
And I want to bring up these with her too, because she's actually gone in. She's interviewed. I want to say like over 100.
Oh yeah,
Hell yeah.
And so I want to see if we're unsuccessful in contacting her, contacting Tulsi. Maybe Joy can, because I know Joy's even interviewed like Jeff Weaver. I mean, she's interviewed some pretty big names. And
She
I
knows how
would
to
be
hold their feet
surprised
to
to
the
find out
fire
that
and not be a dick
it.
about it like we would.
oh, I'll be a
Right.
dick about it. I've got every
I
gun.
know you would, Jesse. Yeah.
You know, the reason I say that is because until I do a little bit more research into this, and the sad thing is I know the more I dig into this, the more I'm not going to be able to find, because it's going to be Google or DuckDuckGo or fucking Chrome or whoever is some asshole corporation is going to go in and start fucking with the results, or fucking with the search results, or burying this and showing you that, pro or against, you know what I mean? I can't find unbiased shit anymore. And that's a problem, and that is a big problem that a lot of people should start really seriously addressing. When you cannot get a straight answer because this person's in power and they paid Google money, and now Google is going to bury this search result on page 975,212 of the LLE.
Or what's worse than that is you get an honest answer, but you don't get an answer that actually you get an answer that's a Band-Aid on the cut that was caused. You don't actually get an answer of how the cut happened, or like, you know what I mean? They're going to treat the symptom with the news and give you the bare minimum, and they're not actually going to dive any deeper because everybody knows where that.
Or you're going to get that
goes.
political. You're going to get that political response that's no different than someone saying, "I'm not racist, but," and it always starts with, "That's a great question, and I'm glad you brought it up." And it's like, nope, shut the fuck up, answer the question.
And I'm also happy everyone out here came with. Yeah.
You know what I mean? No grandstanding, no nothing. Answer the fucking question. It's a yes or no question. What are you know what I mean? It's one of those things where if it's a yes or no, you answer that yes or no. Not, well, that's a great question, but that is quite, no, it's not a complex question, you fucking retard.
And you know what? They
yes
sure as shit don't hesitate when someone questions capitalism.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing is people need to take from this shutdown, all the shit that's going on with Trump and all the shit that's happening in Washington, D.C. right now, should be a great indication of they don't fucking care. They want your tax money. They want your votes that don't really fucking matter when it's time for them to kind of throw out that whole horse and pony fucking show of doing an election. But we all know either you're going to win or you're not, depending on which way the rich fucks in the back room want shit to go.
And with that, we're going to have to go ahead and take a break, but we'll be right back with a little bit more and definitely some more Tulsi talk, and we promise we won't go off on any more tangents.
Liar.
Stay tuned.
We have a website, progressiverampage.com. We have a website, progressiverampage.com. We have a website, progressiverampage.com. We have a website, progressiverampage.com.
All right, so we're back.
One of the things I really like about Tulsi, if I could make a point real quick,
please,
is that we had so many people talking about Assad this and Assad that, and Assad is a terrible piece of shit, and he's a terrible dictator. But just because you're a dictator is not a reason for the U.S. to pretend like they're the world police and then go in and overthrow your rule. We made it so much worse. If you want to see what the U.S. Thinks victory is, do a Google search of the city of Raqqa and prepare to just your jaw drop.
It's devastating.
But she went and spoke to Assad to find out, what the fuck is going on. And I, as a war veteran who's been in theater, been in multiple war zones, I cannot respect somebody more for taking the time, especially a woman who probably didn't necessarily feel all that safe in front of a fucking warmonger and dictator. And she went in there and she's got bigger cojones than pretty much everyone in the GOP and most of the Democratic Party. Yep. And ultimately, to wrap this up in a bow, something that we're all aware of, I'm sure, the whole point of why we're in Syria in the first place is there's a gas pipeline that Saudi Arabia wants built in there so that they can go ahead and give Europe access to this natural gas, disrupting the Russian economy.
Yeah.
So it's all so many things are all about going after Russia, and it's insane. Russia, that like their entire annual the amount of money they pay on an annual basis is basically the same amount that when Trump asked for 58 billion, and everyone who called him a maniac for 2 years said, "Well, how about 80 billion?" Yeah, it's about 80 billion is about the money that they spend per year on their military, and this is who we think is an existential threat to our rule. Like,
well, the thing.
So I love that she below the surface and find out what's really going on.
So I mean, I'll agree with you. I mean, she had balls. I mean, considering now completely for a different perspective. Let me throw another little angle on that. I'm not a vet. I've never served in war, but the thing that gets me is, like you said, she had the balls to go over there and talk to a dictator. But not only that, she had the balls to go talk to a dictator who lives in a part of the world where they're probably looking at her going, "Why is this concubine even talking?" You know what I mean? Women and no.
Yeah,
it is fucked up. But I mean, think about it this way: is in his own country, women are less than camel, or women are less than. Period.
They just recently got to show their faces in public, right?
Exactly, and they just recently got the right to drive. But she, you know what I mean? And then that's the thing that bothers me is she has a possibility to get hung for this harder than. We know that Trump went over to Russia. We know all these other people went over to Russia, went to Russia. And we know that Russia is notorious for blackmail and that Russia is notorious for setting people up in situations and finding that vice and being like, "Ooh, you like to snort cocaine off the ass of an 8-year-old altar boy? Oh, yeah, well, come to this hotel because that's exactly what we have." You know what I mean? It's a Faustian deal. Anytime you deal with Russia, Russia.
I think all of his connections with that is just his stupid fucking building deals and all that crap that he.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Loan money to that asshole.
No, but it doesn't matter. They wanted him in country so they could get dirt, or they could get blackmail, or they could get. Fuck, for all we know, that Trump went on a hooker killing spree like he was playing GTA 5. We don't know.
You know what though? Because if that's true, then that would actually explain why it's more likely that Russia wanted Hillary Clinton to win rather than Donald Trump. Because Hillary Clinton is the evil they know, and Donald Trump is a wild card jackass. And they had a problem with Reagan back in the day because he was unpredictable, and they really didn't want him to win, and so they ended up backing the other guy, Carter.
Right.
And
but like I said,
so where I'll push back against that is that Hillary Clinton spent 1.5 years calling for more war in Syria, which is effectively a proxy war with Russia. So they knew that if Hillary did win, then that she could actually get potentially the American public, who are very war crazy, or if not war crazy, really easily easy to convince to go to war, to effectively fuck with their money bin. And so I see where you're going with that. That they probably don't prefer somebody who's so unpredictable. But they have so much blackmail, and they know that no matter what, he's going to look after himself first. So is he a Russian puppet? I really don't think so. Does he have corrupt financial deals with Russia?
Right.
Unfucking doubtedly.
Wait.
Honestly,
but
I don't think he would have gone to war with them.
No.
I think she just postured all the time, and that's what they wanted. And then there'd be resolutions and shit, right?
But you got to remember, what you got to remember is that this last batch of grand jury testimony, Mueller emptied the fucking floor. They went through that courthouse and they emptied everyone off that floor to show evidence. So what did they have that they didn't want any possible chance of anyone outside of that jury to see?
I don't know.
But going back to my original point is half of me, it's like it's kind of like that old, Almond Joy commercial. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Is half of me is like, well, that took balls for Tulsi to go over there, facing all of this. You know what I mean? Because
she's got to have more knowledge on it than the average.
Right. But the other half of me is sitting here going, well, why would you send? And no, I'm not being a misogynist, and I'm not being disrespectful, because the way I look at it is you would not send someone over to talk peace with someone that's instantly going to just look at you and go, you got tits and a vagina. We don't talk to people like you here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how effective could she have possibly been? They would have been like, oh, yeah, she's from the United States. They're probably doing the whole, back behind her back, the squawk, squawk, squawk sign with their hands. Like, how effective could she have possibly have been in an environment and in a country and in a religious environment that states that women have no say?
Speaking of asking hard questions, then, what are the odds that that was a propped move of hers in order to take charge right now and have it to reference back as she's a strong person on this?
It could very well be, but like I said, all the stuff that I've seen of
throwing the theories out today, buddy.
Exactly. But all the stuff that I've seen on Tulsi is how about this? How about we just make half the population right now, well, all 17 people that listen to this podcast, going to make them all orgasm at once.
There's more than 17. It's just there's only 17 brave people who like to hit the subscribe button.
Fine.
Maybe even the bell.
But I'm going to sit here and make everyone come at once. Are you ready?
Ooh.
This is 2020, my perfect ticket. Gabbard, president. Sanders as vice.
That would be
so
fucking
I
awesome
actually
to
thought
put him
about
in
that
charge.
too.
Like
that way, anyone who decides to pull the card that you'd mentioned, Jessie, as far as I don't want to deal with this woman, can deal with the cantankerous asshole that comes his hair with a balloon, and he can deal with that motherfucker.
And
right?
he can cast that
bad attitude.
He'll always break a tie, and I trust him to break the tie. Nobody else.
But not only that is you've got someone that is young enough that whatever decision. This is the biggest problem that I have, and this is. You can call me ageist all you fucking want. I don't give a shit. That's why I think there needs to be an age limit to how far you can serve. And after 55, you don't get to fucking serve any capacity in the government because your decisions are not going to be, you will not be alive long enough to feel your decisions negative or positive. If Gabbard is president,
I don't know if I would agree with 55. Like, I like in theory where you're going with that, like an age limit, because now you're basically crafting legislation for a future that you're not going to be a part of. Now, one thing I did want to mention before we get too far, though, with Tulsi, as far as her not being taken seriously because she's a woman, we all understand that world leaders, like...
I meant that strictly in that realm. And I meant that... Wait.
Hold on, dude. Let me finish my point.
Okay.
So if Angela Merkel were to go to Syria and go talk to Assad, he would take her seriously. And it's much like the billionaire class. Like, the billionaire class doesn't give a fuck if you're black or white, as long as you're a billionaire. Now, if you're a peasant and you're black, they'll like you far less than if you're a peasant and you're white. So if you're a peasant and you're white, there may be something like you may have a slight, maybe a phrase that Jessie would use. You have a cunt hair, higher, standing, standing than say a black peasant, to a billionaire. But this is a whole nother class of people that, it's not just like a regular woman that's coming in and talking to them. It's, effectively a world leader. So I think that I don't think that they would be the same thing as they would looking at somebody's wife, right? Just some random dude or just some random woman speaking to the world leader. They would definitely say, who the fuck is this, camel dung talking to me? So
that's a really good point, man.
I like where you're going with that, but I just don't think that it holds as much water as
no. And like I said, I'm strictly pointing out that it's that region of the world. Like, my thing is if you are an intelligent person, notice I use the word person, then by all means, if you've got smart ideas and you've got decent ideas and you are in the game for all across the board, not just the rich, not just this person, not just this section of society, but if you're in it for everyone, all day long, you'll get my vote. But the problem that I'm having is you're seeing a lot of this, even when the First Lady went over to Africa, they were like, everyone focused on her fashion, and no one gave a shit what the fuck she was talking about.
That's a good point, too.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing that bothers me is
brilliant, and nobody wants to hear her talk.
Right, but the thing that bothers me is it doesn't matter how smart you are. It'd be no different than if, oh God, I hate to put this analogy out there, but you go back 200 years. You could have a black man in the South or anywhere in America who came up with a cure for cancer for free energy and for everything else. But because 200 years ago, black people were considered less than a white man, they wouldn't listen. They didn't give a shit. They would have been like, wait, what's that? You figured out how to give everyone electricity for free? Oh, well, that's great. But yeah, we're not going to listen because you're black. It's no different. It's that that's my point. Is it's that prejudice that's in the mindset.
It's the patriarchy, buddy.
Right, exactly
what we're all raised.
So it is
with.
a fair point. It is a fair point. It is an all too real problem. And I guess maybe that comes down to sending your Secretary of State, right, your highest ranking diplomat you've got in your stead in that area of the world.
Which happened to be Hillary Clinton for quite some time, which, again, Russia dealt with her for so long. Why wouldn't it have just been her posturing in order to be able to say that I'll flex and I'm going to have, I'm going to have a no-fly zone over Syria? Like, I don't even think she would have gone through with that because, sure, we have military dominance, but Russia's no sitting duck over there.
We're getting echo from the speaker.
Yeah.
Oh, do I? All right, let me back this off and we'll see if that helps. Is that better?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
It's still there.
Yeah, it's still there.
I got new headphones. I'm still working them in.
With my lag and Jesse's echo. Jesus.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, anyway, that was the end of my point, and obviously I'm cutting that part out. So.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. But my biggest thing is I want to point out two things. I know the first quote. It's W.C. Fields, and that every minute a sucker is born. Yeah. But the other one, I don't remember quite who said it, was the simple product that in this day and age, especially with the internet and this, that, the other, when you're given something free, you got to understand either they're going to advertise products to you, and if they don't, you're the product.
Yep.
And that's how I've been feeling this whole last 2 years is they don't give a fuck what I say. They don't give a fuck what my vote is. They don't give a fuck anything. The minute they're going to care is when I stop paying taxes. Then they'll fucking care because they'll send an IRS agent and the sheriff department to fucking arrest me.
Or look at the yellow vesters. They've taken to try to go make a big run on the banks.
Right.
Clearly, if you hit the economy, I'm not saying or advocating somebody doing that just yet. But I am saying that if you are trying to find the factor that's aligned between most of people, you're still not going to fuck up the 1% because their money's not in that goddamn bank. You know it.
No. But you brought up banks.
Hurt the economy.
One more point I want to bring up.
Everybody.
One more point I want to bring up. You talked about banks.
They're going to run on banks. Yeah.
No.
Like a run
Is
on
anyone else really fucking scared that they're talking about putting Trump's daughter in charge of the World Bank? Is anyone else fucking scared, or is that just me?
Paul Wolfowitz is?
I know who he is.
I don't think she's any more of an oligarchy neocon motherfucker than he is, so it's kind of moot at that point, right?
No, there is a difference. At this point in time, anyone with the name Trump, I want to spit on the floor and give the fucking symbol for the evil eye. You know what I mean?
You know what, though?
That's a little bigoted.
I kind of want it to happen, and the reason why is because this house of cards is going to fall. It's just not sustainable. So Trump's house of cards is going to fall the same way that Trump University fell, the same way that Trump Airlines, Trump Steaks, Trump Vodka.
That's great.
Trump,
but that's Trump.
Whatever. It's all going to fall. And so I actually want her at the head of the World Bank. So when it falls, it takes that with it. And so we can hopefully, it'll give us the best chance to be able to remake the banking industry to actually help people. Is that a pipe dream? Most likely.
Oh, yeah.
Is that naive as fuck to hope
for?
Yeah. She
most
probably
likely.
won't. But
it's likely the best chance that we have. The Matrix. I love that movie. Was it a pipe dream that Neo would be able to remake the Matrix? Fuck yeah, it was. If you watch the very end of it, the freaking architect is talking to the Oracle saying, that was a dangerous game you played. She said, well, you know what? She said something to the effect of, but it was worth it. Because that's the only way that we could break the cycle.
But you got to remember, that what else the architect said in that movie was there was 600 and change fucking times that Neo got to that point and fucked it up.
Right. That actually definitely tells you never give up.
No, it's not a
but
matter
here's
of
the
never
thing,
giving
though,
up.
that
But
so it wasn't quite 600. It was about 8. But the thing is Neo actually did something different. Everyone else did. I know, and now we're getting into Matrix.
I love it.
So everyone else they follow the exact same thing. So men are, and so if we're gonna break this down, but effectively men love humanity, women love man, like love an individual. And now that's a gross generalization, but ultimately it's much easier for a woman to love an individual and men to love an abstract. Well, Neo flipped that paradigm, and he loved an individual so much he was willing to allow the world to burn, which is ultimately what you needed. You needed somebody with that level of drive and that level of love in order to start the revolution, in order to burn the fucking world down. And
right,
that's
but
ultimately what we need.
Here's
We're
my
getting
biggest
to that
fear.
point.
Here's my biggest fear. They put Trump, they put her, Ivanka, they put that ditzy-headed sperm.
Now. Do you know that she's dumb?
Oompa Loompa. She's dumb.
How do you know?
How do I know?
I'm not. Hey, man, I ain't no Trumper, but I'm telling you.
Look at any
we
business
jumped to a
venture
lot
that
of
she's
conclusions.
been involved in. It's shit. Unless Daddy helps her and rigs the deck, she ain't got a fucking hope in hell. She was actually.
She has a shitty business.
She was part of. No, but you guys got to remember, she was part of Trump School. She was part of Trump Stakes. She was part of Trump Casino. She was part of Trump Towers.
I see what you're going at.
Right?
Yeah.
So
okay.
I'm just saying, apple doesn't fall far from the tree. My biggest fear is they put this stupid fucking idiot in charge, and she turns America into Greece. No.
So you think we're going to get into an austerity situation?
Exactly. So what happens when the rest of the world has
That'll
to bail
start
out
a
the
revolt.
U.S.? Right? That'll start a goddamn Skippy.
How do we know that that's not the end game here?
Right.
As far as me going through all of these theories that I keep spitting at you guys.
Oh no, I
just
still
play
got,
along with me for a second. How do we know that crazy mass revolt isn't the end game because it'll be an easy put down for the governments to squash and then take over with the totalitarianism?
Because here's the problem: it'll be the same thing. No, it'll be the same thing the Japanese learned a little too late. Was the simple fact is they will wake the sleeping giant.
And that's all those pistols aiming at the same place.
Exactly. And what's going to happen is half of me is kind of running with this fucking conspiracy theory in my head is that maybe this shut down, maybe this is actually
the 70s.
No.
You know what I mean?
Maybe,
every era's got a maybe this is it kind of moment.
No. I'm saying it as far as maybe Trump is that guy who sets in the whole Red Dawn scenario.
Well, do you believe in anything that Nostradamus spoke of?
Nostradamus was
trying to apply that
idiot.
to Obama, and then they tried to apply that to Saddam Hussein as being the crazy dictator that. And you know what I'm saying? Like.
Well, wait, let's think about this for a minute.
This kind of neatly tied up conspiracy ending kind of thing. I know I like to play around with it, but I don't really believe
it's not. But I'm not saying it's an ending. I'm not saying it's an ending. I'm saying it is the next event that causes a second and third civil war in the United States. He's already put fucking No. Follow me on here. He's already put lockdown and furloughed a fucking ton of people. You don't furlough. You don't furlough the Coast Guard because they find a ton of drugs and a ton of, just a lot of shit. You don't furlough the USDA.
Yeah.
Right. The USDA. The USDA, in their inspection of fucking produce coming across into the United States from Mexico, finds more drugs than the Border Patrol does. Did you know that?
Actually, no.
They find more contraband.
Think about what was the Chicken Shack and
exactly
in that TV show and Breaking Bad. Yeah, right.
Yep.
And
El Pollo
Breaking
Loco.
Bad, but then also we got the FDA, the part of the FDA that inspects lettuce.
Yep.
Like that shit shut down. So and we saw that lettuce.
Sorry,
Chipotle. People than
you're not getting my money for a little bit,
dude. Yeah. I'm a cartel guy in Mexico. I hear that the U.S. is on shutdown. They're not going to be inspecting produce. Every 15, 20, 25 fucking trucks, I'm putting a fucking kilo of coke in. How much cocaine am I now getting in the fucking country?
So you
catch one out of 9. Well, that's what I'm saying. Air traffic controller, military. You beat all of these people down to the point where they're like, you know what? We've been unemployed for 3 months. I really don't fucking care.
Yeah.
And in walk the people that are going to set up the whole Red Dawn scenario. It's not going to be the Cubans. It's not going to be Colombia. It literally will be fucking Red Star jets flying over the fucking U.S., dropping parachuters, and you're like, whoa, that's China. Wait a minute. Did I order anything from Amazon? Nope. Oh, shit, he's got a machine gun. You know what I mean? That's just a little fun scenario, a little playing with. I hope it doesn't. But at the same time, what do you think's going to happen when it's, I mean, the NRA and all these other people run fucking numbers. The U.S. holds 80% of the world's free market when it comes to guns. There are more guns in America than fucking people. So what's going to happen?
I think it's important to stoke people's anger that are legitimately angry, but also direct it. So stoke it and validate, like you're angry and you have a fucking right to be angry.
Oh, you goddamn Skippy!
You shouldn't burn down your neighbor's house. Right. You shouldn't affect your neighbor's kids being able to go to school. You shouldn't affect your neighbor's ability to feed themselves. It's the ruling class that are our enemies. And I don't know if you guys saw that Richard Ojeda was recently on Bloomberg. Fucking Bloomberg. So they were interviewing him, and he said that if the situation continues on, we're going to have the dirt poor eating the rich. He said it in the lion's den. Yeah. We're going to have the dirt poor eat the rich. And he's fucking right. And we need people like him. We need people like AOC. We need people like the Rashida Tlaib, even though I think that he's not quite as progressive as AOC. We need these people to stand up and help direct that anger, because that anger is not necessarily a bad thing. It motivates people to get out and do shit. And right now, we have people that are angry at the wrong at scapegoats, and we can't have people angry at scapegoats. We need people to put on a fucking yellow vest or whatever. And actually, if you don't know what to do, then follow somebody who does. And if you need to follow somebody who does, look to people like Bernie Sanders, AOC, Richard Ojeda,
Gabbard.
And Tulsi Gabbard. You know, I actually, if I can, I'd love to hear your guys' views on Richard Ojeda real quick. I heard Kyle Klinsky mention that one thing that he finds unforgivable. Also, Mike Figueredo had kind of basically said the same thing, that they find it unforgivable that he voted for Mitt Romney over Obama. Well, we had 4 years of Obama, and what did we get? Right? What do we get for our troubles? Right? We didn't really get a whole lot. So I guess I can't really hold it against a guy who lives in coal country who voted for a Republican when he's in a plus 46 Republican district and he's a state senator, or I don't know if he's a state senator at the time. I'd have to look that up. But I don't know. I don't know if I could call that unforgivable. Like, Obama didn't really give us much. Obama ran on hope and change, and by year 5, year 6, year 7, year 8, we're still waiting for a hope and change. But here we are.
You're gonna hope shit changes.
Or you're 10, I guess, and still waiting for it. Yeah.
But the biggest thing is that I want people to realize, and I want people to wake up to, and I want people to understand is, you got to stop looking to rich people to solve your fucking problems. You are the solution to these problems. They are the fucking problem. Bezos is getting divorced. And by the time he is going to sign a fucking document that says, I am divorcing this woman. And the state's going to go, okay, boom, half your assets go to her. And he is going to single-handedly create the richest woman in the world. And no one's got a problem with that.
Yeah.
No one.
I mean,
not only that, but oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, if you got a problem with that, then you got to have a problem with Bezos having as much money as he has.
That's my problem.
I mean, of course, that's an issue, but I don't know. I mean, that's the same as anybody who has more than $1 billion giving $1 billion to a kid, right? What's the difference? Okay,
but
there's
it goes
another.
Back to like you were talking
there's
about.
a bigger problem here. You're still looking at where you got to put You're still looking at where you got to put a Band-Aid, man. You got to think more meta about this shit. Why are there more billionaires being created? What can we do to stifle that fucking growth and shift the tide so that all of that fucking trickle down actually does land on us?
Not a problem. We assign we assign blame and ownership. Okay, yeah. So now you got to follow me on this. Blame and ownership.
I was waiting for the word missile or something, but okay.
No. Blame and ownership. Okay. The reason I say blame and ownership is the simple fact is you can lay blame at a lot of people's feet for voting Trump in. That's fine. And there are some people that have changed their minds and be like, man, yeah, I probably shouldn't have voted for this asshole. But at the same time, you had a shit sandwich or a shit sandwich with cheese to vote for. Okay? The other thing that you got to ascribe to this is that's fine. These fucking billionaires, whether it's Bezos, the fucking evil Cohen brothers, the fuck whoever you want to fucking point the thing
Koch
to.
brothers, yeah, right.
Yeah, Koch. You want to play with the fucking government. You want the government. You want control. You want influence. You want this. Great. You are now taxed at 45% of your fucking income. What you have right now goes into taxes, and everyone else 5%. Because we ain't got shit to say.
Isn't that kind of the thing that Ocasio was talking about?
Right. You want more money? You pay to play.
I like using her middle name. Oh, I like using her last name, right?
Pay to play. Pay to play. That's all I'm saying. Pay to play. I'm tired of everyone taking money from the 800, 900, a million, 385 fucking million people in the United States.
Are you repurposing that phrase, sir?
Which one?
That's cool. Pay to play.
It is pay to play.
A problem with Hillary Clinton on her end of the deal, right? Like making sure that people give money to her to the Clinton Foundation in order to get government kickbacks and shit. And
great.
No, I like it, man. I'm not knocking you. I'm saying I'm just spin that shit around and say if you want to have this kind of power, if you want to be able to lead these things, then you either have to reinvest so that you grow your business, or you got to pay a big ass fine for having way too much fucking money and actually hurting the economy.
I'm going back to the whole flat.
That's what they used to do.
Flat tax across the goddamn board.
See, that without the graduation, you're missing out on the whole idea of people being able to feed themselves in the long run.
No. You're telling me that
flat
you
tax
would
is
not
not fair.
10%? 10% would not be fair. If you're making $32,000 a year, your taxes would be $3,200.
A flat tax can actually.
Well,
but if you've got $140 billion,
have to burn because that's not going to bring in anything close to what's being brought in right now.
Oh, that's fine.
Now, if we shrunk government, I could see us having a flat tax.
But then you get rid of corporate welfare on that same
Listen
stroke.
to me, we need MMT people on here so they can educate us a little bit.
Well, I mean, the thing is, the problem that I'm seeing is this.
Here's actually, I have an idea.
Go ahead,
please.
So. All right, here I have an idea, and this is what I've never heard anyone bring this up, and I'd love to see it happen. So we get the AOCs in, we get the Bernie Sanders in, and then so we start talking about real democratic socialism. So let me read you a quick definition real quick. This definition is from a phrase you two are probably very familiar with: eminent domain. It says that the power to take private property for public use by a state, municipality, or private person or corporation authorized to exercise functions of public character following the payment of just compensation to the owner of that property. So what if we have the government go in and just repossess all the money in Cyprus, all the money in the Cayman Islands, that these billionaires hide overseas, and then we say, well, your just compensation is going to be what you paid into the tax system, which is peanuts, and we're going to go ahead and repurpose that for infrastructure. We're going to repurpose that for jobs programs, and that would cause a 0.01% to want a revolution. But if you actually did create jobs and you actually did create a standard of living for the 99%, they're not going to have any soldiers to fight their fight for them. Right. And this is a way that you can actually use things that are often used to punch down on the working class and steal our assets and steal our property and use it to repurpose and wealth redistribute back the way that it should have been, because we've been having our money stolen and redistributed to the billionaires to make them billionaires. So we should take the money from the billionaires and redistribute it back into the working class, into the municipalities, into the states, into the federal economy, in order to have, a coast-to-coast high-speed rail, in order to have, if nothing else, the idea that legalizing marijuana would create 1 million jobs, just marijuana alone.
Yeah.
What do you think a high-speed rail from coast to coast would do?
Oh yeah, exactly.
I want to be a conductor.
Tens of millions of jobs, and yep. So that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah.
I'd like to see some sort of eminent domain pulled and repurpose all that aggregated wealth, because unfortunately, aggregating a Uncle Scrooge money bin full of gold doubloons, right? Is just it's just too dangerous. It's the same reason why I can't drive 250 miles an hour on the freeway, because it's too fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
And because if I hit a car going 250 miles an hour, I'm going to do to that car what these people aggregating wealth are doing to our economy. It's going to explode the fuck out of it.
Well, that's the thing is like we've talked about in the past. I mean, I'm putting more into the economy with the above minimum wage job, because I got to go out and buy gas. I got to go out and buy fuel. I got to take the wife here. I got to take the kid to the movie. You know what I mean? I'm a more useful person in the economy than Bill Gates is. How many fucking yachts is he buying? How many golden toilets has he bought in the last year? No. But he's really fond of buying goats for fucking third world fucking countries. Well, here's an idea, Mr. fucking Gates. Why don't you pay your fucking fair share of taxes? Oh, suddenly now it's well, that's not American, and that. Oh, but it's American for you to take fucking money out of my mouth, out of my kid's mouth, out of our fucking lives, on a weekly basis or bi-weekly, depending on whatever my paycheck is. Yep. They're not doing that to these fuckers. They're doing it one time at the end of the year, and they're paying fucking tons of fucking lawyers to find every goddamn loophole they can possibly find so he doesn't have to pay a dime.
And guess who doesn't have time to fucking do that? You and me, because we're working 1, 2, 3 goddamn jobs to put.
Why is it? I paid for my taxes last year to file my taxes, because I paid a fucking firm to do it and everything else. I paid $500 to get it done. They didn't find fucking loopholes to fucking make it to where I didn't have to pay a goddamn dime and I got corporate welfare and I got, all of this extra shit. No, it was, I had to fucking pay that to get what I was entitled to get back. And even then, the government still fucked me out of money.
Guys, if there's anything I'd like to wrap in a bow, come listen to the Progressive Rampage so that we can repurpose the phrase pay to play, and we can repurpose how eminent domain is used.
Fuck that. Absolutely. Why don't we just apply the fucking drug law to these assholes that are breaking the law? You hid money in Panama. If that was drugs, they would come in and take your house, your car, and everything else until you could prove that the money that you paid for these items didn't come from illicit
Very
means.
good point.
Why don't we do that?
They got credit cards attached to them goddamn
exactly.
accounts. Or
do
something
that.
to that effect. They're drawing money, right? All the houses they buy.
If I can take $7.8 billion out of Panama that is U.S. citizen owned, and I turn around and tell you, prove to me you did not get this money in illegal means, they're going to be like, well, how do I prove that? Easy. Prove it. Prove that you didn't, that this money didn't come from fraud.
The same thing they do to people like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's RICO, right? Isn't that what they
RICO
do to mobsters?
Exactly,
right.
RICO.
Okay.
RICO Act these motherfuckers left, right, and center. And if Tulsi Gabbard gets into office and Bernie Sanders is her vice president, or vice versa, I'll even say her vice versa.
Fuck you,
RICO
Wall
the
Street.
fuck out of the 1% and find out how much money you get. I guarantee you, if you RICO the 1%, you'd have a goddamn chunk of change to take a huge hit out of the debt. Huge. Woo. National debt would fucking drop. Everyone else would be like, well, wait a minute.
There's trillions out there.
Exactly. Trillions of dollars kicking around. Trillions. And then you cut all these fucking military contracts to fucking Lockheed Martin and all these other assholes who are selling arms to our enemies. Why don't we do that? Oh, wait, because Preston Bush set the precedent for that back in the fucking 30s when the U.S. fucking investigated him for helping the Nazis and then turned around and gave him his business and his money back. Oh, no, someone's been listening to history.
Well, Professor Jess, I really think that we're going to have to wrap up this episode.
Damn the man!
Damn the
Before
man!
we do, I want to say happy birthday to Chris.
Happy birthday,
Chris.
Thanks, guys. I'm turning 72.
Thank you, sir.
72.
I am honored by your fellowship.
No.
You are the Gandalf to my Frodo, Baggins.
You get to add your age. Add it. You're 12.
I'm 12.
That's right. You're going to discover masturbation and titties. So you're in a golden age.
Dude, get ready to pitch a tent, fellas.
That's right.
Have a fun fucking weekend, everybody.
Yeah. See you all later.
Yep. May the force with us.
And let's get Tulsi Gabbard on this fucking podcast.
We'll do this. We'll do some Jedi shit.
The paradox of tolerance says that a tolerant society cannot tolerate the intolerant because the intolerant will ruin the tolerance. In much the same way that, yeah, I may have been trained to shoot a human silhouette, but that was not before I was trained to respect the shit out of that weapon.